with Barbara Walters and John Miller. They stuck together through the worst of times. 5 brothers and their little sister, trapped in a foster care nightmare.
These children would have to get on their knees and eat like dogs.
For the first time, they tell their story about the locked room where they say they spent nights huddled together, the daring plan to find food, and the big brother who became their hero.
I just wanted to stop it, but I couldn't.
What kind of people could do this to children?
They say that you tortured them. Get the camera out of here.
Chief Investigative Correspondent Brian Ross with a story of betrayal and survival. From Times Square in New York, Barbara Walters and John Miller.
Good evening and welcome to 2020. Our first story, let me tell you, is absolutely riveting. Over the past few weeks, the country has been hearing horror stories about foster care coming out of one particular state, Florida. And tonight we begin with one of the most outrageous cases in the Florida files. It's like a Dickens novel come to life, with children who say that they were trapped in the clutches of monstrous foster parents. They were starved, they were locked up like animals, and John, as we both know, the state did nothing about it.
No, they didn't. And you'll hear the children's story now for the first time in their own words. Chief Investigative Correspondent Brian Ross with a case that shows both the dark side of human nature and the power of the human spirit.
What happened to these children was inhumane. God's got to be watching them.
This is a story of survival.
It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing.
A story of how these 5 brothers and their sisters stuck together in the face of what is described as almost perverse cruelty, with not an adult in sight to save them.
It's hard for me to believe that somebody can do this to a child.
The oldest is Jesse. He's now 15, the leader.
That was you.
There's a set of twin brothers, Jordan and Joey. The freckled-faced one is Toby. And the youngest are also twins, Susanna and Robbie.
These children were tortured. These children were neglected. These children were abused.
This is from you, from Mother's Day.
Now safe and adopted into the loving home of Kathy and Rod Rodriguez, the 6 are for the first time telling their story of the adults who they say tortured and beat them.
They would hit us with their hands or anything or with the belt.
You remember the belt?
That hurt.
A damning indictment, in their own sad words, of the Florida officials who took them away from their natural mother, an alcoholic, and left them unchecked for months at a time in the hands of strangers.
I used to think in my mind, I wish I was dead so I didn't have to be in this stupid place, in this stupid room.
You really wished you were dead?
Yeah.
Where the state of Florida put them was in this house, in the care of this woman, Jacqueline Lynch, who collected some $150,000 as a foster mother, even though 4 years earlier, one of her own children had been taken away from her by the state because of allegations of physical and sexual abuse in her home.
Time after time, the bells went off that this was a dangerous home.
Children's rights lawyer Howard Talenfeld says officials of Florida's Department of Children and Families simply ignored Mrs. Lynch's background.
One of their children was taken, 2 were under protective supervision, and she had actually, to avoid the department itself, had fled the jurisdiction of the state of Florida. There had been a statewide alert put out, and when she came back, they licensed her and her husband as foster parents.
That's unbelievable. That's absolutely unbelievable. There's no doubt about this?
It's appalling.
And these are the facts in the case as you found them?
These are the facts, this is the testimony, and this is what the department did.
For almost 2 years, no state caseworker ever came to inspect the Lynch home, about a 20-minute drive from the state offices, even though there are supposed to be visits once a month. What they would have found by simply walking down this hall was a small room, barren but for sheets on the floor, where the 6 children say they spent most of their time locked up.
Most of the time we slept on the floor.
Or you wake up in the middle of the night shivering. It was really cold.
Cockroaches came out of the ground of the wall and out of the vents. It scared me a lot.
These children weren't fed. They were fed out of a bowl. One bowl where these children would have to get on their knees and eat like dogs.
And once locked in, there was no bathroom.
You just go.
Just go on the floor?
Yeah.
Really?
Or try and hold it, one or two.
So you probably wet your pants sometimes, huh?
Oh, yeah.
What would happen then?
She'd hit us.
But almost every day after school, this was their world, like a jail cell, with no furniture, no place to do homework, nothing to play with.
And no teddy bears at all.
No teddy bears?
They were isolated in this room from the time that they came home from school until the time that they actually were given NyQuil and put to sleep at night by Mrs. Lynch so that they wouldn't bother her.
All right, sit on my head. Sit on my head. On your head?
But just as they now help each other climb trees in the backyard, Jesse and the others figured out a way to escape from the room when they were desperate for something to eat and drink.
We didn't want to go hungry, I guess.
Fearing what they thought would be severe punishment, they escaped through a hole in the door, later covered up with wire mesh to prevent more escapes.
One of us would kneel down on our hands and knees, and when they got on top of our back, we'd sort of lift up.
And help each other out through the hole?
Yeah.
And this would be late at night?
Yeah. Everybody was out playing bingo.
Joey told us of the night Jackie Lynch came home unexpectedly, and her teenage son tracked him down, hiding behind a couch.
I was thinking that this would be the end of it. I probably won't even see school again.
You thought he might kill you?
Yeah. Yeah.
But even after the state received reports from a school and a court-appointed guardian about possible abuse, the caseworkers continued to file reports with nothing but high praise for the Lynches. Excellent foster parents, a secure, loving home.
For 20 months, they didn't check and look each child face to face and say, "Are you all right?" They called Mrs. Lynch, and Mrs. Lynch complained that the guardian came for an unannounced visit, and ultimately the guardian was taken off the case instead of the children being removed from Mrs. Lynch.
If they had asked the children, they might have heard what we did, tales of frequent, painful beatings.
Yeah.
Or just stupid things like if the food was too hot or something, I'd say something about it.
You get hit for that?
Yeah.
When they hit us, it said, it's your fault that you're getting hit because you're retarded and stuff like that.
Do you think most children live this way?
Yeah.
You do?
In addition to the beatings, the children described sadistic punishment, such as the jar of hot peppers Toby says he was forced to eat.
My mouth was watering a lot, and my mouth was burning up really hot. A few days later, I started getting little blisters in my mouth.
And even worse, several of the children described being taped into large plastic crates by the teenage son and then dumped into the swimming pool.
It was scary because you couldn't get out trying to hold your breath in, but you can't.
And you'd sink to the bottom of the pool?
Yeah.
And they kept a hold of the rope, and they would wait till the last minute to pull them out and decide they could live.
The others stood by helplessly.
I just wanted to stop it, but I couldn't.
Still, Jackie Lynch remained in the good graces of the state of Florida, which incredibly did not remove the children even after her son, who was living at home, was charged with sex crimes against a minor.
Not only did they allow Mrs. Lynch and Mr. Lynch to remain as foster parents, they allowed these children to be permanently adopted by the Lynches and to be their parents.
Jackie Lynch and her husband Frank became mom and dad, all the children had, still collecting thousands of dollars from the state and threatening to return the children if they didn't get additional payments.
You know what they say, if it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger, so.
Mm-hmm.
Is that how you feel?
Yeah, pretty much.
Are you stronger now?
Yeah.
In fact, while he doesn't like to admit it, it was Jesse who kept the family going on those long, long nights in that barren room, comforting the little ones, keeping the others in line so they wouldn't anger the Lynches.
They like to say Jesse's their hero, and in reality he probably is, but they're all their own hero.
Finally, more than 5 years after they were placed in the Lynch home, someone called a child abuse hotline and police responded.
These people showed up at our house, and then big fat Jackie said, "Hurry up, get the clothes on the kid, there's some people here." And then we got clothes on, and then next thing you know, we were put in these vans, and then we were drove off to different houses.
Authorities took these pictures of the room after discovering the 6 huddled together, emotionally battered and malnourished.
Susanna was 19 pounds.
19 pounds?
4 years old. She came in a size 2T dress that swallowed her up.
Police described inhumane and dangerous conditions, but the law did little to Jackie Lynch. We found her running a restaurant in a small town in Alabama, where she and her husband moved after prosecutors permitted her to plead no contest to just 1 misdemeanor count of child neglect. She was put on 1-year probation and ordered to pay court costs of $140.
That was it. That was the end of the story. You can walk away from it all and never do a day of jail time.
I'm Brian Ross. ABC News 2020.
What in the world is 2020 doing?
Well, I think you know, don't you? The case in Florida.
Oh.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
You like to talk it?
We'll go outside and discuss it.
Okay. We'll go outside and discuss it.
The Lynches told 2020 they had nothing to say about the 6 children that were once theirs.
What happened to those children? They say that you tortured them.
Oh, I have nothing to say.
You have nothing to say?
No. Don't take no damn pictures around here of me in there, okay? I'll break the damn thing on you in a heartbeat.
Mrs. Lynch, is there anything you want to say?
Camera taking pictures of me. You understand what I'm saying?
All right.
Well, then get the damn camera out of here.
All right.
The children's lawyer did take action against the state of Florida, which last month agreed to a landmark out-of-court settlement of $5 million to be paid into a trust fund for the children. And what happened to the employees who failed the children for so long? We asked Kathleen Carney, the director of Florida's Department of Children and Families.
That I do not know. You can check with District 10, which is Broward County.
We did check and found that to date, not a single one of the employees has been disciplined or dismissed.
Happy birthday to you.
Their new adoptive parents say the 6 children have shown incredible strength to overcome what happened, always and still sticking together.
When we first got them, they only had each other for support. First morning, we wake up and all 6 of them are in one bedroom on the floor sleeping.
Now they all have their own beds in a home with plenty of love and care and even teddy bears.
When I was in foster care, I said I wanted a family that I can have fun with, and I got that family that I wanted.
A happy ending for these 6 children, but there are more than 18,000 children in foster care in Florida, and too many horror stories have surfaced. The governor, Jeb Bush, has now ordered a head-to-toe examination of the system to try and identify and root out the problems.
And this is the same state that refuses to allow qualified gays and lesbians to adopt.